Rodriguez show. It's been a few weeks, but we're back on here with my buddy from the East Coast, Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Great.
So, Mike, I want to start off by saying that elections in California are still ongoing. Um, the election was March the 5th, and here we are, the 20th, and we still haven't counted all the ballots in the state of California, which is really truly amazing to me that with today's computer software and everything that we have automated, we still can't count ballots in time, especially in a state where ballots are predominantly mailed in, which is really
Right.
amazing to me how that happens. Um, Disappointing in a lot of ways because we take too long. We already know who's probably going to move forward or not, but for it to take this long is ridiculous. Um, Not that I was born in the 50s and 60s, but I can remember in the 70s and 80s, everything was done the same day.
Right.
Right? By the time the next morning came around, we
You
all
knew.
knew who got elected, who was moving forward. And here we don't know anything until it's certified on the 13th. Believe April 12th is when they're going to certify the election. April 12th. So,
I guess California's using the Putin system.
I don't know what system we use, um, but we need an upgrade or we need to figure out why it's taking this long to count all the votes. Um, I definitely want to say something about my part of the election. I want to thank everybody that voted for me and supported me. Um, it is unofficial, but it looks like I'm going to be moving forward to November. So I'm super excited about that. Um, but we have a long way to go in California. I'm super excited to say that many conservatives have made it through, more than I've ever seen in the last few elections in California. At least in the LA County area, a lot have made it through, which is super exciting. So there's hope. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Um, we just got to make sure that we continue messaging the right messages to people so
Right.
that they vote for the right person versus the same old thing, right?
Yeah.
We don't
That's
want to
like
do that.
that's like out here. We've got uh, a former Governor Hogan who is like leading the pack on everything. This be if he gets in, he's not my favorite person because he's a rhino, but he'll be the first Republican senator in probably since his dad.
Well, good. I mean,
So
I'm not a big fan of voting for the D or the R, but at this point, the D's have really screwed up everything, right? I mean,
oh
I
yeah.
can't think of anything they've done um, that has been good for the economy, good for the people. So it's kind of strange to me that we we keep advancing people that don't do anything. And I'll just use California as an example, right? Here you are in a state with over $68 billion deficit in our budget. We're giving people that are here, shouldn't be here, what is 700,000 of them are getting extra money from us, right? And now in California, they're toying with that bill that, affordable for you to be able to buy a home if you're not here on a legal status, right? And I don't want to use the word illegal, but if you're not here, if you cross the border and you didn't go through the proper channels to become a resident or a citizen of the U.S., so we're going to make it easy for them to buy a home, but we don't make it easy for our own people to buy a home,
Right.
which I don't get. I truly don't understand what the people don't see, right? I just don't get what they don't see. It's pretty obvious that the other party is doing things to hurt us, right? In my opinion, of course, to hurt us. They're supporting illegal immigration. They're supporting child trafficking. They're supporting prostitution. They're supporting drug use. I don't know if you know about this, but in California, they want to legalize what do they call those drugs?
Fentanyl.
Cocaine.
Oh,
Uh,
they want to be like Oregon.
right. They want to legalize all these drugs that all they're going to cause is more issues, right? Now,
More death.
again, I'm not a big fan of legalizing any drugs, but come on, at what point enough is enough, right?
I always told you that we are on the opposite sides of the U.S., but Maryland now wants to look into legalizing psychedelics like
That's
mushroom.
it. That's the word I was looking for. Psychedelic
Psychedelic.
drugs.
So
Yep,
now
that's the word I was looking
now
for.
they want to look into that, and I'm going, what the hell? I said, you got people getting killed out here every day, walking in front of cars, doing all kinds of stupid shit, and then they told the police out here, well, gee, if you stop somebody and you smell marijuana, that's not probable cause. Well, if I drink a beer and they smell the alcohol, that's probable cause. What's the difference, you idiots?
Well, and it's funny because everything relates back to they politicize racism, sexism, and all that nonsense. So yesterday, I read an article about the state of Washington. Um, in Washington, if you are an attorney, you don't have to get. They're trying to push so you don't have to do a state bar exam to practice law, because a state bar exam is racist. Right now, let's put this into perspective. The DEI system, right, or DEI, I think it's DEI, right, where
Yeah.
they want to make it fair and equitable. Well, let's say you have a pilot and you have a pilot that is more qualified than the other one, right?
But he's got less
But he's
hours.
got less hours, but because he's a minority in their eyes, he's going to fly the plane that I'm going to be in. Or we can go as far as doctors, right? Now, if we're going to follow the same rule, it's a slippery slope. Once you do it for one, you're going to have to do it for everybody, right? So now you're going to have doctors that might not be as qualified as the other doctor trying to take care of my medical issue, right? And this is where
Right.
we're going because we're trying to make everything fair and equitable. Well, again, it should be the most qualified. Again, that's Tony's opinion. That's not fact. That's just my
That's
opinion,
the common sense
right?
opinion,
So
and I believe a lot of people believe
So
that.
if you want an attorney in Washington, you might not get the best qualified attorney, but because he or she belongs to a specific group, you're gonna use that attorney, which is unfair. It's not fair at all. This thing about separating people by culture, by sexism, by racial is nonsense. And people need to
It,
wake up to all this nonsense.
it's all men are created equal, but you have to be better in academically and everything else to get the jobs.
So what's next, right? We're going to hire law enforcement not based on whether they pass the academy or not, and learn all the rules and laws and regulations. But we're going to pass them because the color of their skin or because they belong to a specific group. Well, we need so many of these people and so many of those people, not somebody that can actually do the job effectively. And that's very concerning. Very concerning to me.
Well, and they call people minorities. Well, in my county, I'm the minority because it's 60% African American out here, which makes me the minority. So if I got to fill out an application, I'll fill it out and say I'm a minority other.
And it's funny. I was talking about that with my wife last night. We went to a neighborhood council meeting in Toluca Lake last night, and we were talking about, what FAFSA is, right? It's
Not
financial aid for
sure.
college students, right? So we had the
Okay.
representative, the local congressperson there talking about they're trying to figure a way to get FAFSA money to people that don't have social security numbers. So I already know that's a red flag, right? They don't have social security
Yep.
number. They're not here the right way. Let's just leave it at that, right? The congressman's representative was talking about, well, most of these people are people that are under the DACA program. And my response to her was, then, if they're under the DACA program and they're protected, why don't they have a social? Right? Can we
Right.
give them a temporary social? Right? They were born here, so I understand, right? But they don't do that. So the reason they don't do that is because they're probably not here the right way.
And they're not paying taxes.
So, and yeah, people are going to argue, yes, they are, because they go shopping and they pay sales tax and blah blah blah. But regardless of that, if you're going to be here and you're going to get benefits from us, then let's make it right and say, okay, because you know what, we have other students that are here legally that can't get those um, monies for them to go to college, right? They have to depend on mom and dad or get a student loan to go to school.
Right.
Why do we have to do these things? Specifically in California, I don't know about any other state. Why is it a constant thing that we have to protect others and not our own? That's like me protecting my neighbor and telling my wife, you know what, you don't really matter to me. I'm going to take care of Joe Smith up the street because he's more important to me. Makes no sense.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these governments don't make any sense. Maryland wants to drop. We have a 6% sales tax, and they want to drop it to 5. Well, when they drop it to 5, or if they drop it to 5, now they want to tax you for getting your hair cut, your guy to come cut your grass, and they want to add percentages onto that. So I mean, the list is like reading the Bible of things they want to add the sales tax to.
Well,
I'm surprised I didn't see food on there.
one thing that that I've learned through this campaign process is the influence certain organizations have, right? So you're looking at a campaign and you're looking at who donates to that campaign, and you start noticing if you're LA, if you live in LA, you have people donating from Sacramento, right? These special groups, Sacramento, Long Beach. What does the Long Beach Firemen's Union have to do with the Burbank Fire Union, right? Nothing to do with each other,
It
right?
might it might be all be under the International Association of Firefighters. It may be the one big union group, and they're run by a state president who may be in
Right,
Sacramento, but that's like ours with the Fraternal Order of
right.
Police. They're in Our president is in from Baltimore. So if they have a meeting and they get all these FOPs together and they say, "Who do you want to put in there?" And they'll say, "Oh, Joe Biden," because the president's from
Right.
Baltimore. It's all blue. So that might be what their umbrella is on that.
But to me, it's kind of they have so much influence on the decision making process of people in public office that they're going to make decisions in the best interest of those organizations, not the people in the community, right?
Right,
Because
right,
I use this as an example. Um, Electricians in California, right? If you're a union electrician, you're well protected, you're taken care of, you're making $90 to $95 an hour. But if you're not a union electrician, you're making less than half of that, right?
right.
And yet we don't protect them, right? But we want to protect the guys and the gals that are making big money, right? And I get it. You got to pay the union dues and you got to pay the union mafias all their money, right? I get that part. But if you really truly care about the community, you would try to make a difference and help everybody, and they don't. And that's my problem with
Right.
the donation system, that you have people. There was an incident a couple years ago in Glendale. There was a proposition. I think it was I can't really remember. It was adding another fee, and you had the Long Beach people supporting something in Glendale that has nothing to do with Long Beach, nothing to do with Long Beach, right? But they were supporting it because it's tit for tat, right? They support Glendale, and then when they do it in Long Beach, then Glendale will support Long Beach with money, right? And that's not fair. That should not be the way the system works. If there's no
No, it
connection
shouldn't.
between the organizations, why is somebody in Oregon supporting somebody in Burbank? You know what I mean? It just to me makes no sense.
Yeah, it should be those. A lot. If you want to support somebody, use those grassroots dollars from the small people.
And
It shouldn't be these big companies that come in and say, "Hey, we're going to give you $1 million here, $500,000 here." They should all be cut
well,
out.
and it's funny because an individual, at least in California State Assembly, can only donate $2,500, right, max, for the entire campaign. But yet, a union or a PAC can donate more than $10,000, right?
Huh.
Um, which again, to me, I know why they do it. Um, And it's not that I'm against unions, I'm against public unions. Private unions, go at it, right? That's your right, right? You're a private organization. But I don't get to decide on anything with public unions. I don't get to decide. I'm not sitting at the table negotiating, and it's my money. It's taxpayer money. And I think
Right.
if we're going to compete, we need to make sure that I get an opportunity to speak my mind about the negotiation, right? If it's a private company,
Yeah.
that's different. Do what you want if you're a private company. I get that. But when it's government, public unions, I have a problem with that. I sincerely have a problem with it.
Well, that's like the teachers' unions are big, and I think they break up the Department of Education, let each state handle their own thing. You'd affect these unions going on in these each states
Right.
too. You know.
Well, and you're right. I mean, if you think about it, if you want to make things fair and equitable for everybody, you would stop all the special interest nonsense, right? You would just stop it.
Yep.
You would say, this is your budget. This is what you're going to use. You can't use more than this. Nobody can use more than this amount. Go at it, right? May the best person win. I'm good with that. Right? But when you
Right.
have people that can keep doing, and I'm going to use the Glendale race for school board. There was two great candidates, grassroots candidates, two great, right?
Probably
Yeah,
parents too.
actually, they were both parents, right? One of the guys they were competing with allegedly committed fraud in the Beverly Hills School District. He paid the money back, so Beverly Hills didn't prosecute or anything, right? That goes to his integrity already, right? Right. Yeah, he paid it back, but he did something wrong. He didn't admit it. The other one, they got support from the school board teachers union about over $100,000 against two parents. Right, one of the parents, the one that was running against the guy that allegedly committed fraud in Beverly Hills, um, good human being, good parent, good family man, on point with what he was fighting for, and he lost the election to a guy that allegedly uh, committed fraud, but he paid the money back, so everything's cool, right? The other person is a mother. She was way ahead um, up until a week ago, and all of a sudden, this mass amount of votes came in, and her competitor passed her over. Right? Again, neither of these two people spent a lot of. I didn't see a lot of signs. I didn't see any flyers come in the mail about them, but they ended
Mhm.
up getting ahead and winning. Right? School board is an important position. I don't think people realize how important it really is. Right? And when we have professionals in those school boards, this is what we get: incompetence, low integrity people. They don't really care about the community, right? All they care about is whatever the agenda is of the teachers union. And it's not the teachers. I'm not blaming the teachers at all. It's the leadership of the union, right?
Right.
I was privy to see some documents on how much a lieutenant in a law enforcement office in Southern California is making, right? Which is, again, I understand it's a tough job, right? Being a police officer, I get it. But there's no reason this police officer should be making over $200,000 a year in overtime,
Uh,
right?
that's crazy in
Right.
overtime.
So, it begs to say, what is happening in our system? Why are some city council people allowing this to happen? Um, why don't they stop it? Obviously, there's a reason why they're not stopping it, right? Because they probably got a lot of donations from that organization. So they allow this fraud to continue to happen or waste of money, and we don't spend time on thinking about what's important to the community, right?
I know that on police departments, at least mine, you work and whatever your top salary is when you retire, you get a percentage of that. And like when I left, I had 5 years of leave. So I said, figure it in there. Well, my friends in New York City, they would all work overtime. They were like lieutenants, and they would work overtime because all that money they made off not off base
Right.
salary, but off overtime counted towards their retirement in those years. So that may be one of the reasons these guys are thinking about doing that. So the retirement's a lot higher.
But there's no control. Again, we'll go back to California, the gas tax, right? Everybody was all for it because Newsom had everybody believing that he was going to use that money to fix the freeways and fix for infrastructure, right? I
Yeah,
haven't seen it yet. Maybe it's one of those long-term plans that Newsom has. I haven't seen it yet. We're still paying the tax, but nothing's happening,
still
right?
got
Is it going to a general
yeah.
fund? That's what I think, right? Where they can use it for whatever they want, right? Things should be, if you're going to spend money, it needs to be earmarked. This money is going to be used just for this, right?
Right. We've got we've got an 11% tax going on firearms, ammunition, or accessories. So that's holsters, magazines, whatever. And the reason they want to do that is to help fund the trauma centers that are bringing these people in that are getting shot because society is out of control.
But I think it's out of control because we have allowed it to get out of control, right? Because we condone behavior, right? So in California, you if you commit a crime, there's a good chance you're not going to get convicted, right? And if you get convicted, you're going to get limited time in jail, right?
Right?
So,
Yeah.
and I'm going to use last night again as a prime example of the moronic attitude of career politicians. This person representing her congressman, and I'm standing outside talking to her, and there's another constituent speaking to her. He said, she says, too many kids go to jail, and they shouldn't go to jail because they go to jail because they're minorities. And this person asked her,
That's
so
bullshit.
what's the congressman's stand on an 18-year-old that commits murder? Should he or she go to jail? And her response was no, right? And she followed up with saying, because as minorities, we live in a different environment. We're poorer than white people. So this is a staff member of a congressman. And I'm not going to mention his name, but this is the mentality that is introduced to people that, hey, use your race, use your skin color so that people feel sorry for you. If you commit a crime,
It's okay.
you should pay the price, whether it's jail time, whether it's community service. I'm not a judge, so I don't know what the penalty would be, but I know for murder, that's a big, you should go to jail. I don't give a crap what race you are, right? You go to jail.
Do the crime, do the
And
time.
for her to say that, and for keep using the minority card, because my last name is Rodriguez, it's not Smith, right? And I asked her, I'm like, but you know right from wrong. Just because you're poor doesn't mean you have to commit crimes. Like
Right. Make
I said, we
excuses.
need to stop that mentality. We need to stop saying it's okay. What if somebody gets raped or assaulted? Is it okay because I'm poor? Because I'm brown? Is it okay? And that's. But we've created this monster, and I think
It's
it's
a
been
cop
it's been
out.
ongoing for years. It just became real prevalent during COVID, right? When BLM was excited and all this, it became more prevalent that people were dividing us racially, not just sex wise, but racially, right? In California, they're talking about increasing utilities bill for the rich, right? That's what it says, right? So in California, according to Governor Newsom, if you make over $28,000, you're going to have to pay more for electricity utilities in California. Now,
You're keeping people down
last
now.
time I checked, $28,000 in California is nothing, right?
Right. That's
And
poor.
I would think, but the governor believes that you're in that upper echelon, right? So you need to pay more, right? So in order to pay less, you got to be probably homeless because
Yeah.
$28,000, you can't rent a place in California, at least in Los Angeles County, if you only make $28,000 a year. You can't rent a place. It's
No.
difficult. I was in. I went to an event Saturday, protect our kids event, and as I was driving with my son in the car, he was checking the rent on apartments through downtown LA. Right, so studio apartment over $2,000 a studio. Right, no
Right.
bedroom, studio apartment. Right, um, that's how horrible things are. That we're sitting here saying that somebody that makes $28,000 can afford to pay more on a utility bill because the governor said so. For a guy that spends who's on vacation spending $29,000 a day on a vacation trip, right?
I want to see his tax
Right. What
records.
does that say about what they think about us? And I'm saying that we're dumb, but we're accepting this nonsense from these people that don't have a clue about day-to-day life, what we go through every day, what we have to give up so that we can eat, right? What we have to give up so we can go on vacation with our families in the summer, right? We don't have that luxury life that people like Newsom have, or Ron Banta up, the Attorney General in California. For that matter, Gascon, right? When is it gonna be enough? You and I have to manage our budgets, right, so that we can live comfortably. Why can't we hold them accountable to manage our budget? That's what our tax dollars are for, to provide for the
Right.
state. But yet, the way they spend it, there's no accountability. There's no reason why we should
That's why we
be
left.
$68 billion deficit in California. No reason.
That's why we left England and came to the United States because the taxes over there were so high that we said screw that, and we didn't start a tax system until Abraham Lincoln came in because he had to supplements the stuff for the Civil War. Before that, we didn't have taxes.
It's funny, right? If you don't pay your bills, the banks will come after you, right? If you don't pay the IRS comes after you. But when our government
Right.
leadership doesn't pay their bills, nothing happens, right?
Oh, you're right.
Nothing happens, and they blame it on each other instead of looking within and saying, you know what, my bad, I screwed up, right? And that's the problem. And I know people seem apathetic about voting, at least in California. um, but we have to vote these clowns away. We can't continue to
Oh yeah.
elect the same people over and over again if they're not
Clean
accomplishing the
house.
mission.
Clean house and put people with common sense in there.
you know, Kind of like the school board thing. What better people to have on a school board than two parents, right?
Right.
Not a teacher, not professionals, parents, right? Let's run this by parents. Let's see what parents think about this instead of, let's just do it anyway, right? Let's just do it anyway. We don't care what anybody thinks. We don't need input from parents because those are our kids. They don't belong to them anyway, right? That's kind of the mentality of the government as a whole, right? Those are our kids, not the parents' kids. And you know they had the nerve to call them extremists because they care about their kids. I That blows my mind. Blows my mind how that happens.
Do you guys have like referendums on your voting? Is what you would like them to do with your money, upgrade public safety facilities, schools, and that kind of
We
stuff?
have bills that get passed, but here's an example. Proposition 1,
But
right? In California, the governor sold it. He's going to take money to help people with mental illness, which is great, right? Totally agree with the
sure.
concept. But what he's doing is he's taking money from the counties and the cities so the state can provide that. So now the counties and the cities are going to be short on their funding because people voted for that proposition, probably not really reading it, just seeing that he's going to help people with mental illness, which is great, right? But now you're taking the funding from the counties and the cities. So what programs are they stealing from to pay for this program? Right. So it
Right.
does. So it
Especially,
doesn't really solve the problem. It. It might solve one, but it's going to cause another one, right? So we're not really solving anything. We're just putting band-aids or super glue on things, so it doesn't bleed to death, right? But eventually it's going to burst, right? It's just going to burst. The retirement
Yeah.
program, the CalPERS program in California for public unions, they're so in debt. There's no, at some point it's going to blow up and there's not going to be any money left, right? But people don't get that. People just don't understand the concept that you can't keep spending and spending money that you don't have. Can't.
Right.
It's there's going to be a cause and effect somewhere down the road, and it might not affect
Yeah, we
you and
were
I, but it's going to affect somebody else.
well when Governor Hogan left, he left with a surplus. The new governor came in and now he says, "Oh, now we got a deficit. We have to raise money to fix our transportation needs as far as uh, filling potholes in and doing this and doing that. What did he spend the money on? Oh, gee, let's put a pier out here in the Chesapeake Bay. Why do you need that? It hasn't been that way for 100 years, and you want to take $1 million and spend it there. Why are you spending it there? And they don't get it.
It's like, you know, we're a country that we were built on people having their rights, right? It seems like the government wants to keep telling us what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. But they don't want to do that themselves. But they want us
Right.
minions to just bow down to them and say, "Oh, yes, master, yes, master." And and I don't get why people don't see that. It's like I don't get how Gascon is ahead in the election. I don't get it. I don't, because anybody that I ever talked to, oh no, we can't stand him. He's wrong. He is letting criminals out. He's allowing people to get out of jail. But yet he garnishes all those votes. And there was some good people running against him, some really good human beings. And he's way ahead of everybody, right? Which to me makes no sense. Which scares me because it tells me that there's a shot he's going to win again, right? Um,
And hopefully, all those people at the bottom that were running against them, their people will flip over on the general
that's what
and see,
that's what we're hoping for. But it's
yeah,
just, I know people get caught up on voting for the letters, right? But I beg of you, vote for the right person. For once, forget about the letter they belong to. I don't care if it's an independent. Obviously, I would want you to vote for me. I'm a Republican, but I don't care if it's an independent or a Democrat. Whoever is the best person for the job. And it's easy to tell people, ask specific questions. If they don't come to you, there's a problem. I was last night, and all I asked the neighborhood council was, look, afford me the opportunity to have a town hall meeting where the citizens of Toluca Lake can ask me whatever they want to get to know me, right?
sure,
Not what they
sure,
see in the media, not what they read on my website. Have them ask me what's important to them, because I need to know
face to
that.
face,
I need to know what's important in
right,
Toluca Lake, Sherman Oaks, Sunland, Tahunga, because it might not be the same as Glendale and Burbank. Might not be the
right,
same. Why would I try to push a bill that is only going to benefit one or two groups when I can figure out what's important to everybody and pass a bill that's beneficial for everybody, right? Instead of the small groups. And I think that's the challenge is getting people to understand that you don't have to keep voting the same way because your union tells you, or because your mom and dad tell you, or your friends tell you. Make your own mind on who you want to vote for, right? And if
exactly,
you're not sure, research that person. If you're not sure, I know one thing, all candidates' websites, you can click on the website and ask questions, right? Right? You can click. Not everybody's like me who gives your personal phone out, but you can click and ask. And you can invite the candidate to come into your neighborhood and talk to you.
sure,
Ask questions, right? Don't vote for somebody that is not willing to answer questions. And I know sometimes people get caught up with wanting to know what their plan is. I had somebody ask me, "What's your plan for homelessness?" And my answer was, "Well, it's not what we're doing now, right? Because it's not working, right? I need to know And I was honest about it. I said, I need to know what they've been doing so my plan doesn't incorporate what they've been doing because we've been spending money and homelessness keeps growing and growing and growing. So I don't want to keep doing that. I don't want to keep giving money to the same groups that are supposed to be helping us fix the homeless program because it's not working, right?
I mean, if they got mental issues, we would like to build some more mental facilities, even though a lot of them have gone away since like the 70s or 80s. Uh, you know, they got drug problems. Let's build some more rehab centers for them to get into because they might want to get off, but because of their substance abuse, they can't. It's like being addicted to
Right.
tobacco. You've got an addiction, it's in your body, it's in your fat cells, and every time you burn something up, you want another hit.
Right. And really it's like any addiction, right? I mean, people need help. And you're right. And what is really causing the homeless issue? Is it mental illness predominantly? Is it drugs predominantly? Or people just say, I want to live out here because I don't want to be told anything, right? So it could be we need
Right,
to figure out what the real cause is before we start coming up with these plans of action that aren't working. They're just not working. Right? They're not. So for people to ask what your plan is, well, I need to know what we've been doing because I'm not the one making those decisions so that I don't follow suit because that's really what happens, right? Anybody that gets elected, well, I'll give more money. Well, that's really not solving the problem, right? We need
right,
to find out why people are homeless, first of all. And if we're using company A to help us and they haven't made any headway, then why are we using the same program? I mean, it makes
right.
no sense to me why we, kind of keep doing the same thing over and over, and it's not working. But let's keep doing it because it looks good, or it's pretty,
And
right?
one,
Or
and one of the things when they ask you what is your plan, well, every politician's going to give you a plan. The question should be, how would you solve it? What are your ideas on solving it? Because a plan is just the word
right,
plan. That's it. It doesn't give you any
and
solutions
even then, I'm
or
leery of
ideas.
giving a solution because I need to know what we've been doing. I want to know because my solution
Right,
might be the same thing they're doing, and I don't want to make that mistake again when it comes to that,
right,
right? I want to make sure that kind of like a military operation, right? Before you take the hill, you plan out. And if
exactly.
you've had squad after squad getting whacked every time they try to go, well, I don't want to do it that way because it ain't working.
I think I think we want to flank them.
It ain't working. We need to come up with a better plan because we've lost two platoons now. I don't want to lose a third one. So
That that's what's happened at Gettysburg. They went head on the fields, and General Chambers said, "Let's flank them," because he knew there were so many people getting killed, and they came at a different angle. Case closed.
but
You
people
know,
have to give the opportunity for people with common sense. Um, Somebody said you don't have any experience in politics. And I said, that's great. I don't want any experience in politics. I said, because I have a fresh perspective, right? We keep electing people because they have political experience. Well, they have political experience on stealing money, lying to
right?
us, right?
Stock
Yeah,
trading.
stock trading, forgot about that one. And self serving, right? Self serving nonsense instead of doing what's best for the community. And they don't, I'm sure there's some that do, but there's many that don't. And we
Yeah,
need to
I would have told him. I would have said, you know what? I don't have any experience in politics. You don't have any experience in politics. I said, well, do you? What do you want? What would you like me to do for you? It's about people, not
right.
politics.
And I think that's the
That's what
that's the disconnect, right? That
that's the
people
disconnect.
need to start thinking kind of like they do at home, right? Most people, most families don't make decisions based on what's important to them specifically. It's what's important to the entire family, right? Whether it's dinner,
Right.
whether it's vacations, you know. Yeah, mom and dad might do something on their own, but when it comes to the family unit, they do what's best for the family. Whether They buy a house with enough bedrooms for all the kids. They have a big yard so the kids can play, or they want a pool for the kids to swim in. They want a nice neighborhood for their kids. It's for everybody, not just
Well,
mom and dad.
when your kids were little, what's the first thing you did when they came home from school?
Yeah,
Do you have any homework
right,
today? Get in there and get it done. And and then you kind of said, okay, you did that. Now we're going to eat. By the time you get around to all that, it's dark outside. You know, go watch a little TV, play some video games, and you got bed at 8 o'clock. And you control the playbook.
right. And to me, it's just like it's really just common sense, right? No matter whether it's having your kids do their homework or sitting down for dinner, it's just a common sense approach to life, right? If it makes sense, let's do it.
Right?
If it doesn't make sense, let's think about it, right? Instead of, well, I'm going to vote for him or her because um, she's friends with so and so or she's connected to so and so. You know what? Forget all that nonsense, right? Or I'm not going to vote
Right.
for that person because they got tattoos all over. I mean, some of the nonsense I hear, I'm like, Jesus Christ, people. Um, you know, don't judge a book by its cover. Open the damn book and
Exactly.
read it, right? Read the book. Um, learn about propositions, right? Learn who you're voting for. Right? If they're not willing to talk to you one on one, why bother voting for that person, right?
Right. I mean, I've seen Steny Hoyer from Maryland's District 5 on TV like once or twice this year. And it was at the opening of something, a subway system, or, trying to endorse another person that's running for something. That's about it. Does he come around to my neighborhood? No. Hell no.
And they come around, of course, during election time or a Fourth of July
Maybe.
parade or a Christmas event, right? But you know what? They need to be able to, and I know they're busy. Don't get me wrong. I get they're busy, um, but they should have either themselves or a representative go to all these neighborhoods and talk to people, right? And let them
Exactly.
know
There you go.
one thing about this congressman. I believe his representative goes to all these neighborhood council meetings, which is great, right? Um, and somebody from the LA supervisor's office was there, and even somebody from Laura Freeman's office was there, which I'm super impressed, right? I've never seen a Laura Freeman person in my neighborhood council meetings, but at least they went to Toluca Lake, um, which goes to show you they pick and choose who they want to support, right? They don't,
Well, they're looking at their
right?
base.
So
Where's our base more at? Because the guy that I was kind of helping out, who was running uh, for Congress the last time, not this time, but I would tell him, you got to hit this county here. I mean, there's a lot of Democrats, but if you talk to them, you might get them to flip, and they don't listen. They think I've lost my mind. I mean, I grew up in this neighborhood. I mean, I don't care if you're black, green, orange, brown, whatever. I'll talk to you. Even my wife knows that. I go to a shop, I go grocery shopping, and I'll see a guy with a Vietnam vet hat on, older black gentleman. And I'll say, "Sir, thank you for your service." And they say, "Oh, did you serve?" I said, "No, I was a policeman out in this county." He said, "Well, thank you for yours," and then we'll start up a conversation. And that's the way it is. Somebody walks out a door, you hold the door. It's just basic manners.
and it's funny you say that basic manners, right? You got to be careful because some people get offended if you open the door for them, right? Or if you say sir or ma'am, right? People really get offended, um, and people get actually triggered. It's a better word. People get triggered easily nowadays over anything, right? Which you know, I can't even imagine these people growing up in the '60s and '70s if they get triggered
Oh yeah,
with the words they get triggered with today. So, um, and part of it is, people have gotten so used to um, the government super involved in their life that they're kind of like apathetic about it, right? Again, I don't really think that they understand what is happening, and not that I'm a conspiracy theorist or and by any means, but the more leeway you give to the government to do what they want, the more they take. Kind of like a child, right? If you don't punish a child or correct an action, he or she's going to do something else, right? It's going to
Right. Or
escalate,
they'll do it again.
right? And then you're going to
Yep.
get to the point where you can't control your child. Um, and that's what's happening with the government, right? We keep letting them get away with stuff. At some point, we're not going to be able to stop them from anything. They're just going to run everything. And then you're going to say,
And
I don't
sometimes
want this. And it's too late.
and sometimes it's a parent's responsibility. I had a young man who was in school, and the kid next to him stole his earbuds. And he knew who the kid was. He knew his name and everything else. And the father was going to go talk to the principal about it. Well, come to find out, when I talked to the kid, he said, "Oh yeah, and his father's a substitute in my school too." So now it's time to sit him down and explain it. And I said, if I could, I would go up and talk to him, and I would say, "Here's what your kid did. I know you care about kids because you're apparently substituting, and see if you can render a solution to this problem. Whether it's give them back the next day or
Right.
whatever." But a lot of it is the way you talk to people. I mean, I go into a gas station up the street from me. Maybe I'll go get an iced tea or something, and I always acknowledge the guy behind the register. He'll have a name on, and I'll say like, hey, Patrick, thank you. Have a great day." And by the time I keep going up there, these guys who I don't socialize with, but I know they work
Mm-hmm.
there, I always acknowledge them, and they're glad to see me. When I walk in, they say, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" And it's developing that mannerism and that baseline for a successful transaction.
Well, it's common courtesy, right? It's
Yeah.
just common courtesy to people. Treat people with respect. Um, and we kind of lost touch with that because
Oh, a
because
lot of
we've allowed, again, it goes back to we've allowed the government to overstep their boundaries, right? We just have. There's no way around that, right? We've allowed it, and and I don't think people really believe that it's dangerous, right? It's a dangerous precedence to have the government so involved in our personal lives. It really is, right?
right,
The reason we have a constitution is to limit government, right? That's the reason
right.
we have it. We don't have a constitution to to give the government the authority to do whatever they want willy-nilly, right? I don't know if it's fear, if it's apathy, or a combination of both. But at some point, you got to make a stand. And if you don't make a stand, then you have no reason to complain, right? Just like elections, right? We have, I guess California has is low voter turnout this year, right? Well, you can tell me you're apathetic and lazy. I don't want to hear you complain, right? I know people that
Right.
say, I don't vote because it's not going to make a difference. Well, let me tell you, and I and I've
How do you
and I've
know?
shared this story with you before. 2 years ago, uh, a guy lost by 100 votes, right? Right, for to be a city council person, 100 votes, right? Now, if maybe 100 more people would have voted, he might have been voted in, might have been a tie. I don't know. But my point is that sometimes elections aren't won by a lot of votes, right? Sometimes
Right.
it's 300 votes, sometimes it's 2 votes, right? Um, those votes make a difference, and it can make the difference between a good person and a bad person, right? A good
Right.
person with little money and a bad person with a lot of money, right? So, you got to start thinking that way, and, and and there's no reason not to vote in California because you can vote by mail. You don't even have
Exactly.
to put a stamp on it, so it's not like you have to do anything. You can put it outside your mailbox, and the mailman will take it, right? Not that I'm a
Right.
big fan of mail-in balloting, but in California, there's no excuse not to vote, right? And when you look at the county of Los Angeles, with over 10 million people. I think they got a little over 5 million registered people in California, right? 5 million. I think a little over a million voted in LA County, uh, which isn't
Wow.
much, right? Um, I have in my district approximately 200 and between 270 and 280,000 people that are registered voters, right? Right. Not even half of that voted in the election, right? So why do you complain and talk about public safety and our streets are a mess? The city's not doing their job because you don't vote these clowns out. That's the problem, right? In
Right.
any organization, if somebody doesn't do their job, they lose their job, plain and simple. As a
Right. If you didn't do your job, it would be the same way. If you were working retail and you were sitting on your butt having smoke breaks all the time, your manager should say, "Have a nice day." And that's exactly what we ought to do.
well, think about it. You were in law enforcement, right? If
Yep.
if you didn't do your job, right, they would probably fire you.
Well, what I did when I was an acting sergeant is I told my guys, I had about 8 to 10 guys, and I would tell them, look, this isn't a quota system out here. We don't have quotas, but just get me 3 pieces of paper a night. It can be a warning, it can be a field observation, it can be a ticket, it can be an arrest. I don't care what it is. Just get me 3 pieces of paper so I know you're out there working. And they respected that because they said, oh, I can do that. And it was nothing overbearing. But in the end of the month, if you took those 3 times 30 or 25 or whatever, how many days they worked, it showed that we were doing
Right.
something.
And again, it's just my employer would fire me if I didn't do what he asked me to do. My job, description is.
Sure.
So it's important that we get rid of people, right? It's not a negative thing. Hey, you know what? Thank you, but I don't feel you did your job. Maybe you can do something else. We need to find somebody that's gonna do their job. That's all I'm asking from our political leadership is just do your job. And your job is to take care of your piece of the pie, right? Like at the
Right?
federal level, there isn't anything I can do or you can do, Mike, right? There's nothing, right? That's too big of a pie. But it,
That's too big of a
but
swamp.
we can do things at the local level. We can do things at the county level.
Right.
We can do things at the city level, neighborhood level. We can do certain things to help our piece of the pie. And if we take care of our own little piece of the pie, that'll take care of the bigger piece of the whole pie. If everybody does their due diligence, doing their whatever they're expected to do, whether it's cleaning the streets, whether it's replacing lights that aren't working, whether it's setting up traffic control points to manage speeders that we have out here in this world, right? Whatever the case is, if everybody does their little piece of the pie, we can resolve 90% of our issues.
I was reading a thing today. There was one guy who joined this police department, and the guy or gal, I'm not sure which one it was supposed to check him out. The guy said he worked for the Maryland State Police at one time and he left and went to a municipal agency. Well, the guy who was supposed to have been doing the hiring never checked a lot of things. The guy had domestic violence charges, stay away orders, never worked for the state police. And now they're going, oh shit. So do your job. Take some initiative.
Right. I mean, again, any organization, if we had Adam Schiff working for us, he would have been fired. Right?
Oh, a
Would have
long
been
time
fired.
ago.
If we have Chuck Schumer, he'd be fired. Right?
Yep.
McConnell, he'd be fired. Right? I mean,
Yep.
there's some people that, regardless of party affiliation, you'd be gone. I mean, it's plain and simple. Right? And I don't know. I think people would sometimes get caught up on personality. Oh, but he's such a nice guy when we meet. Or you know what? Everybody's a nice person when you're coming to the 4th of July parade, or you're coming to a
Oh,
Christmas
sure.
event, or a night out event. Everybody's super. Oh, of course they're going to be friendly. but it's what happens when your back is turned that should be important, right?
Right.
Not when they're facing you. And when you're not asking me or giving me the opportunity to tell you what I think is wrong in my district or my city, you're not going to help me, right?
And what you said about doing those town halls, that's an excellent idea because the best form of advertising is the
Right.
mouth.
And really, if you're going to run for a public office, whether it's city council, whether it's at the state level, the federal level, you want to know what your constituents think is important. You don't want to assume
Right.
that you know, because maybe what I think is important to me is not as important to them, right? Maybe they need more lights, or maybe you know they want more police, or maybe I don't know, maybe they want more neighborhood cleanup things that I don't know about, right? My area might be a little bit different. Maybe we need more cops on the street. Maybe we need more a facility for our community to meet and talk about what's important to them, right? Like,
Maybe we need justice
yeah,
reform.
I mean, there's a lot of things that everybody's different. I want to know what you think. I want to know what's important to you. That's all I care about,
Right.
because then that's going to make my decision on what bills I'm going to try to push through, right? I'm going to make sure that I know that, right? Um, I don't want to push a bill that I think it's important. Maybe you think something more important that can benefit the whole district instead of one city of the district or one neighborhood in the district. So it's just, you know, maybe I'm naive in a lot of ways because I think that we can resolve a lot of things with common sense. Um,
But you'll have resources
right.
too to kind of back up what you're looking at or what you're thinking about to kind of justify it.
Well, and yeah, and again, I believe politicians are public servants, so they need to serve the people, us, right? It's not about their careers. It's not about their money making schemes. It's about us. And until they
Right.
realize that, we're going to continue down this spiral that, you know, I'm telling you, I hope it ends soon because it's getting ridiculous what's happening out there, right? And
I get people out here that are complaining because all these new buildings are going up, and now they're starting to see bears out here in Maryland. I've never seen a bear in Maryland. I've seen them in
right,
California, but I haven't seen them in Maryland. And so now they're saying, "Well, where are all these animals coming from?" Well, hello, you cut down their habitat all the time. Where do you think they're going to go? Anywhere they
right.
can. But your infrastructure, your roads aren't wide enough to handle the incoming traffic. I mean, I took my wife to a doctor's appointment today, and it was probably the average of 30 minutes. It took me an hour to get there
Mm.
because of traffic.
Sounds like California.
Yeah, well, it looked like it.
So, and I say this. Look, I'm going to talk about this bill that Laura Friedman is trying to push through. Look, I have nothing against wildlife and animals, right? I don't. Um, but there should be priorities when you're pushing bills through, right? Her bill has to do with Wolverines, right? And I've said this a few times because I'm so annoyed by this bill. She wants to bring the Wolverines back to California, right? And I'm okay with that, right? Whatever.
You got a, she got a zoo?
But we have other things to worry about besides the Wolverine population in California,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I don't think people in my district really give a rat's ass about Wolverines at this point, right? We're more
No.
interested in
Immigration,
right. The
inflation.
economy is a great place, right? Homelessness is another issue, right? Our kids are another issue, right? Drug abuse is another. There's things that are more important than a freaking Wolverine, um, and
Right.
that's what she's trying to push through right now,
Keep that shit off the
right?
table until we get these other ones
let's
finished.
let's focus on important issues for God's sake. People are going hungry. People are struggling, right? Crime is up. I don't care what they say. Crime is up, right? It's
Time is up.
expensive to rent or buy a home in California. You got to make, I'm going to say, close to six figures to be able to live in California, rent a place, be able to pay all your bills, and live okay, right? So
Yeah, that's
When
ridiculous.
the governor wants to pass a bill and considers $28,000 a lot of money or rich, we have a problem with our system.
Take away his money and let him live on that and see what
So,
happens.
so I want people to wake up. Vote for whoever you want, but for God's sake, vote. Don't let November be like March 5th. Get out there and vote. You don't have to vote for a Democrat or Republican or anything. Just vote for the right person. Look at the person. Vote for somebody with common sense. Don't worry about their background. Worry about what they tell you and what you believe in your heart. That's what's important. Nothing else matters. Right?
And in the general election, vote for Tony Rodriguez, 44th District of California, and let's start cleaning house in Sacramento as well as Washington in the general.
Absolutely. And I want to thank everybody. Like I started on the show today, the people that voted for me, the people that volunteered to help me, the people that put up my signs, the people that donated money, the one that spread the message. Thank you so much. Um, Nobody expected me to be where I got. I don't think many people expected me to move on to the general, but surprise, I'm going to the general. So let's keep the momentum going. You can always reach me on my website, Tony, the number 4 at California.us. My phone number is on the website. Feel free to call me. If I don't answer, it's my personal cell phone. So I get a lot of phone calls. I will definitely call you back if you have any questions. I look forward to meeting more of you. Mikey, thank you for always being there with me. Good night,
You
everybody.
got it.
And remember, vote, vote, vote in November. Don't do the same thing we did now in California. Thank you and good night,
You
everybody.
got it. Thank you.